Good evening and welcome to Metro Focus. I'm Rafael P. Roman. Is the statue of Christopher Columbus at Columbus Circle a symbol of hate? And if so, should it come down? That's one of the questions being considered by Mayor Bill de Blasio's Advisory Commission on City Art, Monuments, and Markers, a panel that will start holding public hearings this week. The mayor formed the 18-member commission back in August in the wake of the deadly violence at a white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. That incident centered on the removal of Confederate monuments. But de Blasio's panel was asked to consider any monument or figure that could be considered controversial, including Christopher Columbus. That angered many Italian-American groups in the city who view Columbus as a source of pride. They have been highly critical of the panel, which is expected to issue recommendations on Columbus as well as other monuments by the end of the year. Over the next year, the commission will hold 5 hearings, one in each borough, to listen to what New Yorkers are saying about all of this. Tonight, Jenna Flanagan talks to Tom Finkelpearl, the commissioner of New York City's Department of Cultural Affairs and one of the co-chairs of the panel, to get a sense of where things stand and what we can expect at these hearings. Jenna?
Thanks, Raf. Commissioner Finkelpearl, thank you for joining me on the program. Tell me about these public hearings that are coming up. What is it that people can expect?
So we have a commission on monuments and markers that's been underway. We've had some meetings and now we're going public. We want the public to come out and let us know what they think about the monuments and markers around New York City that are on public property.
What is it that's being determined at these hearings? I mean, what is the commission's purpose?
The commission's purpose is to give general, universal guidelines to the city about what to do about controversial or works that have had, long-term response that's maybe negative, to understand what we should be doing about that. So we've been looking at other cities, understand what happened in Baltimore, what happened in New Orleans. But we also want to know what people in New York City think about this. So we have an online portal where a couple of thousand people have already weighed in, and we're going to have an opportunity for people to come forward in each borough starting this week.
It seems like so much of the resistance to some of these statues and monuments and the furor over them actually started as online petitions or online outrage. So having an online portal seems like a great way to get out to as many people in the public as possible.
I think we understand there's a lot of people out there who communicate online these days. But I really have to say that these are works of art in public places. So have that live public meeting is extremely important to us, to do it in public, face-to-face with people.
There's so much within this conversation, and I'm wondering, how does this commission begin to determine what is that threshold? When does something become no longer publicly acceptable to have on city property?
Right, and this is the big question nationally. It's been the big question in the South. And that's what the commission is wrestling with. This idea of we don't want to erase history. We want to, look at the breadth of history in New York City and understand what it is and who's been able to tell stories and who has been left out, et cetera. But one of the things that has been very important in the commission has been also the idea of what we want to add, not simply what we want to maybe subtract.
And when you say add, we're talking about people being able to suggest new ideas for monuments for the city?
Yeah, so if you go to the online portal, there are these various sort of philosophical questions about monuments, and then there's at the end a question, what would you suggest for monuments? And that could be a suggestion about a monument you don't like or a monument that you haven't yet seen in New York City.
We've seen protests, we've seen petitions, we've seen online outrage. Is that something that the commission will be considering? And how will you work that into your recommendation?
There's a process that already takes place. So if there's a controversial work and let's say there's a recommendation to move it, there will be a community board meeting, and then finally it'll go to the Public Design Commission. This is something, people are thinking about monuments issues in the late 19th century, and in 1898 they created a mechanism of an outside panel that has the final say on public works of art on city property.
And I do want to pick up on that last thing you said about city property, because not all of the monuments in New York are on city property, correct?
Right, and so first of all, anything that's on private property is not under consideration. There's also federal land in New York City, and some controversial work might be on federal property, not under consideration by this commission.
All right, and so once this commission puts its report together, taking in all the input from, of course, New Yorkers, then what happens next?
So the commission will issue a report, and the report goes to the mayor. The administration then looks at the report and issues its own report, taking into consideration what the commission has said. So that'll be then policies. Again, the mayor has asked for universal policies that are going to be applicable to things in new controversies we haven't even imagined yet in the future. And so that's the idea, is to set those policies, to have a bunch of really smart Pulitzer Prize-winning MacArthur Fellows, et cetera, help us to get to the point of having a really great architecture of policy to apply in the future.
So again, lastly, just to reiterate one more time, coming up with a working plan to go forward in terms of how to deal with controversial pieces, not necessarily deciding what comes down, what goes up.
Right, yeah, so that's the idea, is to create this universal set of criteria to use. And that's what we need to do.
All right, and then lastly again, where do people go to find out how they can join these public hearings?
So there are public hearings or the online portal if you can't make it to the public hearings. nyc.gov/monumentscommission.
Commissioner Finkelpearl, I want to thank you so much for joining me on the program.
Thanks for inviting me, Jenna.
Thank you.